Contrary to popular belief, this noise is not the WhatsApp sounds that you might have heard in memes over the past 12 months. It's actually the notification or text tone that many older Samsung phones used to play, and it's a relic of the dark past of Galaxy software. Today, I want to tell the story of what I believe to be the biggest comeback in technology history. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and Samsung is not only known for creating some of the best smartphone hardware about, but its OneUI software skin atop Android, the interface that we've all become used to today, is a big part of what makes its phones just so good. But it wasn't always like this, and there was once a time where Samsung phones were the butt of every joke, mainly because of one thing in particular.
TouchWiz.
Samsung's TouchWiz skin.
Yep, what many considered to be the worst part of Samsung Galaxy experiences was the TouchWiz user interface, and with good reason too. TouchWiz actually debuted way before the first Galaxy S, instead launching with the Samsung Taco, and would eventually become the software skin for Samsung's Android smartphones, including the flagship Galaxy S and Galaxy Note series. TouchWiz was all about quantity over quality, at least that's how many Android enthusiasts saw it, as it brought cool features and a fresh new interface to Android, but was simultaneously heavy, bloated, which muddled menus and caused slowdowns, generally took up more storage space and felt overly cumbersome, which led to Android's pretty poor reputation in the late noughties and early 10s. And perhaps TouchWiz's worst offense was being ugly. The software just did not look nice, and that surely played a part in the Galaxy's reputation for poor quality smartphones early on. The animations looked cheap, the choice of colours and tones felt over the top, too much, almost like a kid's toy in some places, and many lamented the look and feel. I've been playing around with some of these older Galaxy smartphones, which prompted me to make this video, and my word, do they just look and feel awful. At least from a software point of view. Look, it's not revisionism when we talk about how bad Samsung software used to be. It really isn't the best experience. The final iteration of TouchWiz would run on Android 6 Marshmallow, which would come in several different Galaxies, including the S6 and S6 Edge, which would actually be a huge pivot point for the company to try and turn its quality reputation around. For those who don't remember, the S6 series was the first really nicely built Galaxy S with metal rails and a glass back. A bit of a contrast to the software that, whilst had improved significantly over the versions that came years before it, and the final version did get rid of a lot of the garish colours and tone the whole thing down a bit, it was still not exactly a perfect match for the gorgeous hardware on which it ran. Because what would come next isn't OneUI, but instead a little transition period called Samsung Experience. This would run on Android 7 and Android 8, specifically on devices such as the Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge, my personal favourite phones of all time, and then further the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus, with the Note 8 coming in, phones that many Android fans deem to be maybe the best Samsung generations, thanks to that hybrid of old school and new school features. At the core of both the 7th and 8th gen Galaxies though, was that Samsung experience, and it felt cleaner, it felt less bloated and more lightweight. It matched the modern aesthetic, and though still not absolutely perfect, there was a clear step up from what had come before. This was probably the first time that us big Samsung fans went, hang on a minute, I'm not actually complaining about the software here. That's interesting. No, what you've all been waiting for here is OneUI, the leap in quality that launched initially with the Galaxy S9 series on Android 9 Pie. This was a total change with a new aesthetic, a lightweight structure, new noises, and a clear mirroring of that sleek new school styling that Samsung had implemented in its new Galaxy smartphones. It was new software to go with new hardware, and was genuinely a massive step in improving Galaxy's reputation. OneUI is often argued the biggest Android update of all time, let alone a specific skin, because it changed the game and arguably made the Galaxy S9 the more impactful release over the S8, despite the fact that that S8 was the biggest hardware change we'd seen in a long time, with the new screen aspect ratio, with new rounded corners, and the new omission of off-screen navigation as a whole. The software is really what made the difference here. Down the years, we've seen crucial improvements like the switch from 3-button navigation to proper gestures like they have on iOS and the rest of Android today. Better notification handling, which is pretty critical, and DeX that has been fully integrated so that all of the higher end devices you can now just plug in a USB-C hub and use your phone as a little portable computer. This is a feature that I talk about a lot when I'm reviewing and talking about Samsungs. I get excited about it because as a kid, this was something I dreamt of. A little portable computer that you could put in your pocket, pull out, connect to a screen and suddenly have a desktop experience. That was one of the great things that Samsung implemented in its OneUI software. What we have now is potentially, depending on who you ask, the best hardware-software combination in the Western smartphone market right now, with the Galaxy S23 Ultra and now latterly the S24 Ultra. There might be other phones that do certain things better, but I think it's hard to argue the quality of the Galaxy S flagship package right now as a whole. OneUI 6 is currently very much about AI, which has greatly affected and bolstered the camera package, particularly in editing and manipulating after the fact. OneUI is right up there with iOS and Pixel Experience as one of the kings of mobile software right now. And that might not have happened had Samsung stuck with the TouchWiz formula. And OneUI 7, based on Android 15, is due to be released early next year. I'm sure it will continue the trend of great long-term support, a clean interface, and probably an awful lot of AI stuff too. And despite its likely inclusion of additional apps that some might not ever touch, some might not even know ever exist, the OS skin will likely continue to be fast, fluid, stylish, ultimately the opposite of what it was 16 years ago. The complete 180 from TouchWiz to OneUI is one that many companies could seriously learn from. I'm not saying that ColorOS, OxygenOS, HyperOS and MagicOS are anywhere near as bad as TouchWiz was back in the day, far from it. But imagine just how much more enticing those Chinese phones would be if they ran software as clean, as polished, as well supported as Samsung's OneUI. Software is what's keeping a lot of people from even trying those phones in the first place, and it's arguably what's keeping some people interested in the Pixels here in the West. Between the hardware switch from flimsy, cheap-feeling plasticky devices to the hyper-premium glass and metal hardware, and the software shift from a bloated, laggy mess to a tight, responsive, well-supported skin, Samsung's TouchWiz to OneUI redemption arc is the biggest comeback in tech history, and I'm so glad I was around to witness it. Are you a big OneUI fan, or are you still a detractor? What fond memories do you have of older Galaxy devices, guys? As I've said before in this video, my favourite has to be the Galaxy S7 Edge and the Samsung Experience, as that was such a big transition shift. But I have to say that OneUI these days is a triumph and a far cry from the bloated, laggy mess that really was TouchWiz. And right now, I think I'd call OneUI my favourite software skin of them all. I'd really love to hear your stories and memories in the comments and your thoughts on the more modern software. And while you're down there, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content and subscribe to never miss another upload. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.